So this is your birth announcement?
Yes.
Like any new mom, Christina Murray documented every exciting moment of her pregnancy. She'd always dreamed of motherhood.
What made you decide to go with IVF?
I was a single woman, and I spent years trying to find the perfect person. And the older I got, the more I realized I was more interested in being a mother before I got any older than I was in pursuing a person.
To afford IVF, she worked 2.5 jobs and says she nearly depleted her life savings.
What was it like to discover you were pregnant?
It was the dream, right? Until you actually see the little flutter on the monitor and hear it. I think that's when you finally realize, oh no, this is real. I am actually pregnant.
She said she'd chosen a sperm donor with features similar to hers: dirty blonde hair, blue eyes, fair skin. But in the delivery room, that feeling of euphoria shattered moments after the baby boy was born.
My first thought was, he's absolutely beautiful. He's gorgeous. And my second thought was, what happened?
You knew?
I knew immediately. He is African American. That was very evident from the second they held him up, that something didn't go to plan. So my first thought was it the embryo or was it the sperm?
It's not that you were upset that he was African American.
No, never once. Not once.
What was upsetting to you?
That he might not be mine and that I might not get to keep him.
Christina's story, though shocking, is not the first time an incident like this has happened.
There is no doubt in my mind that this happens far more than we know about.
If you have solid protocols and proper training, mistakes should be very rare.
In vitro fertilization, or IVF, a game changer for so many families.
How common is it for people to struggle with fertility?
It's extremely common. 1 in 6 couples will have an infertility diagnosis.
What happens if there is a human mistake?
In an environment where you do a lot of these procedures and you do them well, and you adhere to the standard protocols, I think that this is an extremely, extremely rare and unfortunate event. But it's not something that most fertility doctors are going to see in their career or lifetime.
Eat a little bit more, and then we're gonna go.
Daphna and Alexander Cardinale have been in Christina's shoes. They turned to IVF. Daphna gave birth to a baby girl, who we'll call May. And though she didn't resemble her older sister, at first the couple didn't think much of it.
Both of us just kind of were like, oh, genetics are what they are and they're weird.
But I was born with black hair, so
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this one takes after me.
Daphna continued to ignore it, but Alexander says he couldn't seem to get those seeds of doubt out of his mind, especially when others pointed out that their baby appeared to be Asian.
I can't stress enough how much love creates the most powerful form of denial.
To ease their concerns, they decided to take a DNA test.
It's 99.9% accurate that you're not the father, and then she asked me to read the results for the mother, and then it was 99.9%. But it's earth-shattering.
The clinic told them their embryo had been switched with another couple's who'd given birth to Alexander and Daphna's biological daughter named Zoe. Even more shocking, the two families lived just miles apart.
Oh my God.
Daphna and Alexander distinctly remember the moment they came face to face with their biological daughter Zoe for the first time.
She was in her car seat.
And they handed her to you. For me, it was looking into her eyes when that's when it became real. When I lifted her up and felt her weight and looked directly into her eyes.
How are you so blue-eyed, Bubba?
She had my family's eyes. And it was really emotional because she was already 4 months old.
That's crazy. I missed the little squishy, the newborn little squishy.
Newborn phase of Zoe.
I missed the pregnancy with that one.
That's a full year. That's what she says all the time.
Finally, they made an agonizing decision. They would switch their 4-month-old babies. Zoe and May are now 5 years old. the families have stayed close.
Who's excited for Christmas Eve? Woo! That's from me and Mommy D.
We got so lucky.
The new normal happened at some point. There was a day where we became family.
The Cardinales sued their fertility clinic and ultimately settled privately.
I think that
This would absolutely-
never would have gotten caught if they weren't so distinctly from different races.
Yeah.
100%.
100%.
Fertility clinics undertake in great, vitally important work. But with that important work comes a tremendous responsibility.
Adam Wolf represented both Christina and the Cardinales. He says his firm has also represented more than 1,000 other people in lawsuits against fertility clinics.
Whether it is dropping eggs or embryos on the ground, or mixing the wrong sperm with the egg, or switching embryos from couple A to couple B, those are things that are life-altering.
At the crux of the issue, critics say, is a need for more regulation for tracking and better enforcement in the event of error.
There's no centralized database when things go wrong, or providers operate in a way that fails to abide by professional standards.
The American Society for Reproductive Medicine says that IVF is among the most heavily regulated medical procedures in the United States, and that medical providers have an ethical duty to disclose clinically significant errors. The organization offers guidelines for fertility clinics across the country, ranging from their lab standards to recommended protocols for things like embryo transfers and genetic testing.
These are just recommendations. They're not enforced in any meaningful way.
Christina, like the Cardinales, also got a DNA test that changed everything.
It literally said there's 0% chance of maternity.
After alerting the clinic she used, coastal fertility specialists, she would ultimately learn the baby's biological parents were living in another state, and they wanted full custody of their son. After raising him for the first 5 months of his life, she gave up the only son she'd ever known.
I was his whole world. And you walk in the courtroom a mom and your whole life in your arms, and you walk out with, quite literally, I can distinctly remember walking out with an empty stroller, pushing an empty stroller back to my car.
Christina has now filed a lawsuit against coastal fertility specialists.
I wanted people to realize that this isn't just that might happen or that could happen. This is something that does happen.
Coastal fertility specialists telling Impact their practice deeply regrets the distress caused by an extremely rare human error and extend our sincerest apologies, adding, "This incident does not reflect the high standards we have upheld for 15 years, and no other patients were affected." They also told us that same day we added additional human witnessing in our lab. We have since implemented a state-of-the-art digital witnessing system which electronically verifies patient samples in real time using advanced scanning technology. We reached out to the lawyer for the clinic, and they responded that it's not their practice to comment on active litigation. Coastal Fertility told Impact that all of Christina's embryos are accounted for. And now she's actually restarted the IVF process, this time with a different clinic.
I've decided the situation has taken a lot for me, and it doesn't get to take that. It doesn't get to take my desire and my ability to be a mother.
For more on this story, watch Impact by Nightline, switched before birth, now streaming on Hulu.